Patrick Cook here. Hey, thanks for coming back to the next session. We are at session 122 of our Mandelbulb 3D Tutorial Series, which is project oriented. Now, after the last session, what I did is I began to render each of the keyframes that we have so far in our animation project. Now, as you can see here, I have 4,225. That is the total number of subframes in our 29 keyframes, okay? And what I'm doing down here is I'm rendering each of these subframes out at their full 1920 by 1080. And what we're going to do is we're going to use DJV to preview our animation at full resolution. Now, I wanted to take a minute and just describe something interesting to you. You'll notice here that I have paused the rendering of the subframes of my keyframes. Now, I can do that. They give you the capability to pause. I personally rarely do that, primarily because I don't want to risk any lost frames. Once you have a lost subframe, it's very difficult to correct that. In the video editor, you might be able to spoof it. You might be able to handle it, but you just never know. So I rarely pause the animation once I get it going. In this case, it's an exception because I don't really care if we drop a frame or two. If it comes to that, I don't really care. This is a preview, but I wanted to pause it so that I could show you a couple little idiosyncrasies of the Mandelbulb 3D as it pertains to rendering. Now, you notice here I've got 4,225 subframes, but the listing down here is showing 4,126. I don't know where that came from. Obviously, it is a miscalculation. I am starting on index 1 to the last keyframe. Okay, so that's a little anomaly right there. So don't let that throw you off, okay? It's really the number of keyframes, and as you can see here, 4137, it's proceeding even though this number is incorrect, which is okay. It's okay. Now, over here, you can see that I've had this rendering process going on for 13 hours, 53 minutes, and 54 seconds. So that's a handy indicator. Now, as I recall, that number is lost once the animation has completed. I'm not sure of that, but you can also get the amount of time that the files took to be created into your folder. Let me see if I can find that. Here we go. All right. So here, all right, in my image segments subfolder, here are my 1920 by 1080 subframes. All right. And I am currently at 4137, which is consistent with this number here, 4137. Okay. All right. So that's all I wanted to show you. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this particular session. We're going to let this this rendering finish out, and then we'll come back and we'll review the subframes that have been rendered at their full resolution using DJV. All right, so I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so the rendering of 4,225 subframes has been completed. at the 1920 by 1080 resolution. Now I will point out that what I did is I rendered this as an anti-aliasing of 1. I normally do 2. Now this is for review purposes only, and so it's okay that if I don't do the anti-aliasing. The anti-aliasing, if you remember, is where we're trying to deal with the jagged diagonal lines. All right, so I typically will render a final at an anti-aliasing of 2. Now that would have doubled the amount of time that it took for this computer to render 4,225 frames, okay? So just be aware that the higher quality of an anti-aliasing of 2 or more will increase the render time. So, I mean, you could do your math and whatnot, but 4,225 frames rendered in 14 hours and 21 minutes works out to, you know, a certain number of subframes per minute, okay? You could do the math on that. It's okay. Well, this is an i9, let's see, 16 core, I don't know, so running at somewhere around 4 gigahertz. So it's a pretty robust computer. All right, but let's cut to the chase here and take a look at our high resolution frames. I'm going to use DJV again. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get all of the image segments that we did. Matter of fact, I'll pull this over here so you could see it. All right, there's all my image segments, Control A, and I'm just going to pull it over here and drop it onto DJV, and we'll let it load up. All right, so what it's doing right now is it is loading each of these subframes into memory. What we're going to do is we're going to wait until the scrub bar has turned fully green, which would indicate that it is loaded as many of the images as it can in your computer's RAM memory. All right. So this appears to be as far as it can go. Yeah, okay. So what I'm going to have here is I'm going to have a segment that will run smoothly, and then it'll have to load more images in. All right, that's okay. That's okay. All right, so let's see what we got. Now I rendered from the very first keyframe all the way through to the last keyframe of 30 keyframes. So let's just see what we got. So we've reviewed this before. This is the beginning of our animation, so that's no big deal. All right. All right, so here we go. So we're coming up, you watch, look at the scrubber by here, see? It's doing its best to keep up with it, but now we're not running smoothly anymore because the frames have to load as the animation proceeds, so it's a little jumpy. But that's okay. This is preview only. This is the first time I've seen this too. There's our roll. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, there's a couple things I don't like about this. Let's see if we can just kind of get in here and take a look at what we got here. Okay. All right, so, all right, here I'm just simply flying forward. Tell you what, let's get the view here. Let's get a bit. I didn't have the views correct. All right, so let's take a look here. So this is where we've done the right banking turn. Okay, and right here, this is where we do the really long forward only. And then this is where we do the roll. All right. Okay, and there's the completion of our roll. Now, right about in here, it seems to, now the beautiful thing about the DJV is that I can actually start playing from a certain point. And so I'm going to play from this one point here. Now here's coming up on our forward. All right, it kind of started too soon. The speed on the forward is too fast. And right there, I didn't like the way it stopped suddenly. Okay, so I'll tell you what, let's get back to this. Let's get back to this in the next session. We'll continue to take a look at this and see what we can do about it. Okay? I'll see you in the next session.